The former president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Joseph Kabila, has returned to the country after 2 years in self-imposed exile. But Kabila's homecoming is not being welcomed by everyone. The former president is accused of supporting the M23 rebels that have violently seized territory in the mineral-rich eastern part of the country. The human rights organization Amnesty International accuses those rebels of killing, torturing and forcibly displacing civilian detainees in the areas they now control. Those areas include the big cities Goma in North Kivu and Bukavu in South Kivu. Neighboring countries are also involved. Rwanda denies it, but it is accused of backing the M23 rebel group, while Uganda has been helping the Congolese army fight the rebels. DW's Jonas Gerding gained rare access embedding with the Congolese military. He reports from Lubero, close to the front line.
Colonel Alain Kiwewa is in charge of DRC's Lubero territory. It's under attack. M23 rebels control some of it and took more villages a few weeks ago, he says.
Since then, it's been a little calmer on the front line. But now the problem is an influx of displaced people.
A truce remains vague and shaky.
We've been asked to respect a ceasefire, so this is what we do. But this doesn't mean that it's a static situation. If we need to, we'll start fighting again.
Lubero is important for both sides. It has rich farmland, valuable minerals, and is considered the gateway to important cities further north.
We are close to the front line, just about 19 kilometers away. The rebel advance has been stopped for now. The DRC military tells us that this is thanks to their strength, but it's obvious to everyone you speak to that the presence of Ugandan troops has helped draw a red line for M23 rebels.
Officially, the Ugandan troops are here to fight other rebel groups, but their presence helps the Congolese army to keep control of the region. With Ugandan troops on Congolese soil and Rwanda backing M23 rebels, the conflict is a regional one. Concerns on the ground are local, though. People here in Beni City depend on food from Lubero, including rebel-held areas. This pushes up prices for traders like Jackie Mwenge.
It's like the Congo is now two countries. If you want to get goods out of the areas controlled by M23, you need to pay taxes. That's why prices are much higher now than before the war.
The situation is so rocky, the entire province of North Kivu has been under martial law for 4 years. General Evariste Somo is the new governor here. He's working from a hotel in Beni after M23 rebels took over the provincial capital Goma in January. The last governor was killed on the front line.
There
are many challenges. It was a huge catastrophe when Goma finally fell into our enemy's hands. We are rebuilding the administration from scratch, but be assured, we'll get this done.
Colette Mohoni's village has been taken over by M23. She fled here to Beni with 9 of her 11 children. Her husband stayed and was killed by the rebels, she tells us.
Even before the M23 reached us, we saw looting, killings, gunfire, chaos, and the rape of women and girls. That's when we decided to leave.
The DRC and Rwanda recently started US and Qatar-led peace talks, which include a minerals deal that should benefit all sides.
The Congo has never closed its doors to anyone. If the international community supports us today in achieving this peace, that will finally allow businesses to resume. This is very much welcome.
For people like Colette Mohoni, peace is existential and can't come soon enough.
Weapons won't bring an end to this war. It needs dialogue. God wants peace between people.
Talks between the two sides are ongoing, and both parties have stated their commitment to ending the violence. But the true test will be here on the front line, where the guns remain very much at the ready.
Now, the political fallout from the conflict in the east has escalated, with the Congolese government stripping former President Joseph Kabila of immunity. The government accuses Kabila of being linked to the M23 rebels. The Congolese Senate voted to remove the immunity Kabila is entitled to as a former statesman. The move could lead to him being tried for treason and war crimes. Kabila denies being linked to M23, and he accuses the government of President Felix Tshisekedi of stifling democracy in the country. To give us more context on the situation and the political developments in the DRC, we have invited Kambale Musavuli onto the program. He is a native of the DRC and an analyst with the Center for Research on Congo-Kinshasa, based in Accra, Ghana. It's where he is joining me from. Welcome to DW News Africa, Kambale. Former President Joseph Kabila, who's been in self-imposed exile, is back in the country after 2 years. Why is he back now?
He has not yet spoken himself to explain why he's back now. I'm speaking specifically about the information we have that he's currently in Goma. A few days ago, he made a speech where he explained in a 12-point plan about a path to peace and stability in DRC, speaking about the inadequacy of the current regime of Tshisekedi for dealing with the country's security issues in the east, governance and corruption issues. So that's what we know so far. But it's quite interesting for it to come from his own mouth. You know, he's a former president of the DRC. He ran the country for 17 years. The issues that he's bringing up are issues that were ongoing under his regime. And there was no accountability during his regime, no justice and no peace. And this is also what is unfolding up until now. So he's lifting up what the Congolese people have been calling for, but he should not be the mouthpiece for the Congolese people, as they are clear about rejecting the Tshisekedi regime, while also at the same time rejecting the claims by rebels in the east taking control of the country and causing desolation for the past few years.
And what should we make of the fact that Mr. Kabila went to Goma city? This is the city that is that was violently seized by M23 rebels that he is accused of supporting.
Clearly, if he is in Goma, I mean, all the information that we have at the moment shows that he is actually in the city of Goma right now. It means that the M23 and him are in close collaboration. You know, that they will not allow him to come into Goma if they were not in close collaboration. The same thing happened with the SADC troops. The SADC troops had to negotiate their exit out of the city. And that will beg the questions, what we should ask. Why is Kabila close to the M23 that they will allow him to actually move into this space? I mean, it's just to look at who is the political leader of the M23. He's a former electoral commissioner. The former electoral commissioner would declare Tshisekedi as the winner of the presidential election. He is the political head of the M23. So that's on one level. But this action actually reminds us a lot of what happened in the late 1990s. In the late 1990s, we had Laurent Kabila as the president of the Congo. Within a few months of him controlling the Congo, he had asked the Rwandan and Ugandan troops to leave, and within weeks, they reinvaded the Congo with a full military power. So seeing what is unfolding with Kabila, one can really guess that we are going to witness some form of alliance between Kabila and the M23, and possibly a full-blown rebellion where Kabila will be legitimizing an outside intervention of Rwandan troops into the DRC and make it appear as a Congolese affair.
Well, everything you're saying now just really flows into the next question I wanted to ask you, because it's been suggested that Kabila's coming back onto the scene could destabilize the country. Do you take that view? I get that from what you're saying.
It's a tricky answer to give. The country is destabilized in the east. What is unfolding? We have an invasion of the DRC, an occupation, a military occupation by the Rwandan troops. Not because I'm saying this. There is a UN resolution, 2773, if I'm not mistaken, in February of this year, passed at the UN Security Council. All 15 members voted for this resolution, calling for the Rwandan troops to leave the DRC. Why did they call for that? It's because Rwandan troops are fighting alongside a rebel group called the M23. And they have been active for the past 3 years. They have displaced population. They've committed atrocious crimes in the town of Kishishe, even in the taking over the city of Goma. And an estimated number, not before this year, if we just look at from January to now, at least 3,000 people have been killed, right? So the East is not stable. Him coming into play is coming in from a political context. He does want to come back into power in the DRC. He hinted that he wanted to be president, he was going to be back before even he left. There were discussions around removing presidential term limits. He's a very young person. And lastly, what has unfolded in the past few weeks, that he is also facing justice in the DRC. They remove his immunity as a senator. The former president of the Congo become senators for life in the DRC. They remove his immunity because, according to the Congolese government, he's implicated in supporting the M23. So on one hand, he can't come back in the DRC normally anymore because he's going to be tried based on evidence that the Congolese government has. So the only option that he may have at the moment is to come with a military force and legitimize outside interference as a Congolese situation. So the East is not stable. He himself has a stake in trying to maintain power, but in the final analysis, the people who are actually paying the price of all these political games are the Congolese people, who are yearning for peace for the past 29 years, that they believe that the moment is for peace is now, and it's very evasive of them to get that peace. But the peace will not come through justice, and that justice is not just for Kabila, it's also for the regional players and also other Congolese players who have committed crimes in the past 29 years.
You mentioned Rwanda a few moments ago. Rwanda is accused of supporting the M23 rebels. I should point out that Rwanda denies that. What is Kigali's end goal? And is Joseph Kabila being useful for that?
Kabila has played a diplomatic game for the past year. He's traveled across the region. He's traveled to Rwanda, according to our African intelligence. He's been to Namibia. He's been to South Africa. He's spoken to African leaders, sharing his views on what is the path to peace and how he could be a solution for peace and stability in the DRC. That is not the Congolese people's voice. No, what the Congolese people are calling for is for him to be held accountable. And Congolese people as well doubt that the current Congolese government will be able to deliver that justice. Now, for your question about Kigali, what is at stake for Kigali? Rwanda, not just Rwanda, including Uganda, since 1996 have destabilized the DRC and have supported proxy rebel militias, but have been behind the illegal pilfering of Congo's mineral resources. Congo's resources actually transit through Kigali and through Kampala. There is a report by Global Witness that's just been published of a Luxembourg company, if I'm not mistaken, it's Traxxas, but the company is getting coltan from a company in Rwanda, and they documented how the coltan from that Rwandan company directly comes from the largest coltan mine in the world in the DRC, the Rubaya mine, which is under the rebel control. So Rwanda's aspiration in the DRC has always been the control of Congo's vast mineral wealth, and they've built a network to allow for the pilfering. But don't quote me on it. Actually, President Kagame himself last year admitted to that, right? In a televised speech that he made to the Rwandan people, where he himself stated that he's aware that Congo's minerals transit through Rwanda, but it does not end in Rwanda. It finds its way in the international community. So as a fact, they are aware of it, but what is disturbing is that they have not stopped the illicit trade because, of course, mineral exploitation and proceed from mineral exploitation is very important to the Rwandan economy at the moment.
Kambale, there's currently a ceasefire between the M23 rebels and the Congolese army. We should note that that ceasefire is barely holding, given some of the reporting from our colleagues and others that's out there. Where do you see things going?
Unless there is, in any negotiation taking place for peace in Congo, a clause around justice, we will not have peace in the DRC. This is not the first time we've dealt with ceasefire. This is not the first time we've dealt with negotiations, with discussion of having Congolese national dialogue, and so on. So we keep seeing that we're recycling the old solutions as a solution for 2025. And we're not asking ourselves, why didn't it work before? No, all this negotiation, even the name M23, right, is that name is used as to rebrand a former rebel group called NDP, now they're calling themselves M23, based on a March 23rd, 2009 peace agreement that they signed with the Congolese government. And one of the most difficult things about that agreement is that there is a clause where these rebels are given amnesty. What does that mean? It means, for example, in our context of today, that the massacre that took place in Kishishe, no one will be tried. The killing of over 3,000 people in the Congo from January to now, no one will be held accountable. So all these negotiations does not include a clause for justice. And we are in the civil society in the Congo, we've always called for justice. We have mechanisms for justice that should be implemented. And the one that we call for is the recommendations included in the UN mapping exercise report published on October 1st, 2010, right, 15 years ago, that where it says that what's happening in the Congo is war crimes, crimes against humanity, and possible genocide if proven in the competent court. So until we are holding perpetrators of violence accountable, peace will be evasive. And our Nobel Peace Prize winner, Dr. Mukwege, for those who were able to listen to his acceptance speech when he won the Nobel Peace Prize, he also said the same thing. And many of us believe the same. So we can go to Doha and negotiate accord between the DRC and Rwanda. We can go to Washington, D.C. That's a current deal where the DRC is giving the U.S. an estimated $2 trillion of minerals in exchange for security. We can even deal now with Fornyasibe of Togo, who's the African Union the new appointed negotiator for peace and stability in the DRC. We can do all these processes, but as long as we are not putting justice at the center, there will not be peace in DRC. And that is what the Congolese people are yearning for. After millions of deaths, and continuous pilfering of Congo's mineral resources, we believe that holding people accountable, ending the culture of impunity that exists, will signal to the perpetrator of violence that they must stop doing what they are doing.
Kambale Musavuli, thanks very much for those insights, helping us to understand the dynamics at play in your home country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you.
Thank you always.